Hello, welcome back to Fallout 76. So, you've been playing for a fair while now, doing quests and exploring. And yes, thoroughly enjoying Rosie's dulcet tones as she serenades you over the radio.
But I'm here to keep things interesting.
Chasing the Overseer's tapes.
The Overseer. Signing off. Hopefully not for the last time.
All without knowing that she's been playing you for a fool while she sits nice and safe in her house. But now you're reaching the end of the main questline. It's that time. It's time to launch a nuke and summon the game's final boss. Oh look, it's a nuke event. You mean the one I beat right out of the vault? Let's just pretend that little speed run never happened. So anyway, you want to launch a nuke and finish the main quest. I'll walk you through what you need to get, strategies on how to survive the silo's defenses, how to run through the silo normally, and finally, I'll show you the glitches you can take advantage of to speedrun silos. Before you even think about setting foot in the silo, you need a nuclear card and the nuclear launch code. The nuclear card you get by activating a quest at the Enclave bunker in the High Command section. That means you need to be a general in the Enclave, right? So yeah, do this only if you're up to that stage of the questline. If you're not, please leave a comment and I'll arrange for you to be taken away for questioning. Modus wants to know where you are. Basically this involves going to a random location in the map and shooting down one of those drones you often see in supply quests. It used to be the case that scoreboards would give you quite a few nuclear keycards for free, so many that I used to dump a lot. But now they're a bit scarcer, so it's very likely that you'll need to do the quest to call down one. You also want at least 2 cards before you go into a silo, just in case you screw up and lose your card. Unlock the chest and there's my precious. The second thing you need is a launch code. Normally you're supposed to activate a quest to find scorched officers roaming around the map, take their codes, and decrypt them to finally get the launch code. But that's super onerous. My advice is to F that, just look it up. Googling Fallout 76 nuclear launch code will give you a bunch of sites that have the key code for this week. I'll put a link in the description to a site you can go to for the codes. The last thing is a nuclear silo holotape. You don't need this, but it's a good idea to have one because it tells you what the state of the silos are. They're sold by the vendor in the command bunker, in the room right next to where you start the quest for the keycards. You should only do a silo if it's ready to launch. And of course, you have to have discovered at least one silo. There's 3, all in the Savage Divide. Charlie's the southernmost one. You can find them by following the road east from Nuke or drop down from Foundation. Alpha is in the middle of the map. It's to the east of White Spring and north of West Tech. Bravo is to the north of Monongah Mine, where you fight Earl, and south of the Winding Path, where you do the guided meditation event. This might seem bleeding obvious, but I think you'll agree that it's pretty important to know where the silos are before you go into one. And before you actually fast travel to a silo to start your adventure, just check the silos on the map. If you see another player at the silo, there's a very good chance that they're also working on launching the nuke. You can't always see players, but if you do, you should look for a different silo. Especially if you're only just learning how to do them, because there's every chance they'll launch soon. And the last thing you want is to get through most of a silo, only to have all your work wasted. There's 2 major ways to get through a silo, brute force or stealth. Typically brute force involves using power armor and hard-hitting weapons. I run an Overseer's Union power armor set and the Troubleshooter's 50 caliber machine gun. It's not optimal, but I've been using that machine gun forever in silos. Some people choose to have a Troubleshooter's power armor set just for silo runs, but I don't think it's that important unless you're trying to face tank the entire silo at once. Basically just wearing power armor should be enough. It's a good idea to equip all the damage buffing and power armor specific perks. Even if it makes you overweight, it doesn't really matter because you won't be doing much sprinting anyway. Doing and being able to tank more damage is more important with this approach. Pretty much every enemy uses energy weapons, so the legendary perk to recharge your fusion cores is very useful if you're having trouble. Going stealthy involves using hard-hitting, silenced weapons and remaining undiscovered. I used a silenced Gauss rifle, and of course all the perks to boost damage and protection. You can use the stealth suit, but in my experience it doesn't stop you getting discovered, so your tactics are more important. Basically you want to remain hidden or at worst caution. Take out enemies one by one from stealth. Focus on hitting the combat inhibitors because those are the weak points. If you go into caution, then retreat and wait until you're hidden again. If you have the 3 hacking perks, then you have the option of manipulating the turrets. You can disable them altogether. That leaves only the robots to deal with, and they're generally not too bad. Or you can turn them hostile to everything. That means they'll shoot robots and even each other. Then you can just sit back and take out the remaining enemies. But sometimes this glitches and you can't disable them afterwards. Disabling the turrets immediately is the safest option. There's usually the option to control one of the robo-brains too. They usually die immediately, but that's one less robot for you to deal with. One thing about silos is that robots will continuously spawn, so don't bother trying to clear a location. Just focus on the goals and move on to the next section. If you die, you will respawn back at the elevator, but the intermediate sections will be deactivated, so you should be able to run back to where you died without having to worry about fighting new enemies. Another version of the stealth approach is to use a shotgun and at least one level of the Enforcer perk. Instead of trying to destroy enemies, you want to focus on crippling their legs. That allows you to run around without having to worry about being chased around. Cripple the combat inhibitors on turrets and watch them fight each other. If you have consumables to reduce damage from energy weapons, then this is the time to use them. If you're a carnivore, then a rat scorpion meal will give you a nice little buff. And for herbivores, glowing fungus food will give you a similar boost. A very important thing to keep in mind is that silos are instanced spacers. That means that they'll reset back to their original condition if all players leave, and you'll have to restart from the very beginning. You have a few minutes before that happens. But basically assume that when you step into a silo, you're going all the way through without coming out. So do whatever inventory management, getting consumables and ammo, or anything else you might need before you start a silo. Okay, now I'll walk you through how to do the silo normally. There's several stages, and I'll cover each one in a separate section. Silos are pretty much the same, but you can occasionally get an interior with small variations.
Unscheduled access detected. Activating security system alpha.
The first stage is to get an ID card and register it. But just before you open the door, there's a terminal to your left. That allows you to command the turrets if you want. Go to your right. And read the terminal's instructions. Now you have to find an old card. I was lucky enough to find one straight away, but the location is randomly set. It's typically found on top of tables, shelves, and other surfaces. I'll walk through the bunker and show you some of the locations where you can find them. Multiple cards spawn, so you'll almost certainly find one around here. If you still can't find one, make sure to check all the remaining side rooms. But let's go back to the starting area. Once you have the card, you need to get your biometrics taken. You have to use one of these biopods. This is also the only time you'll have to leave your power armor if you're in one. It's not a bad idea to clear the turrets if you haven't disabled them. Ideally you should do this before you go looking for the card or take your biometrics. In other words, don't do what I did. Then go back to the terminal and swipe the card. That will reset it, and now you can make yours. The final step is to register it at the command console. It will take a moment to register, but you should be able to walk through the laser grid. There's two paths through this section. I recommend going through storage because there's an Assaultron down the other path that usually goes hostile. Make a note of this door, we'll be seeing it again. It's a good idea at this point to enable the starch genes perk if you have mutations. The area ahead has a lot of radiation, so you should be prepared. There should be some hazmat suits in the lockers to your left.
Engineering team, proceed to the reactor control station to initiate repairs.
This terminal allows you to power the radiation archers to clear whatever radiation you get. A bit of a tip is that robots suffer damage when they walk through the archers, so you can also use that as a defensive measure. And yeah, a Radix or a Rad Shield is a good idea in this area. You need to shut down the reactors before you can fix them. The pipes are broken and leaking steam, so you need to click to fix them. Listening for the steam sounds is the best way to spot them, but I'll show you the locations of everyone.
Security incident in the reactor area.
It's also not a bad idea to clear the turrets before you start if you're having trouble with the timer. Once you're done, you can either go back to the terminal and manually start the reactors, or you can wait for the timer to run down.
Initiating system. Reactor system integrity restored. Terminating security lockdown. Opening bulkhead doors. Please stand clear.
Restoring power will open a sealed door to the south of the room. Going through the door to your left leads you back to the room just before the radiation arch and where you find the hazmat suits. This terminal controls the turrets in the next section. For some reason, this robot is partly underground. If you have an explosive weapon, that should be enough to take care of it. The goal here is to destroy mainframe modules to open the exit from this section. One of the ways to do this is to manually click on the cores and take them out. That's how a proper tech would do it. But we're dumbass vault dwellers, so you can just shoot them. Using an explosive weapon is ideal in this section. Just keep shooting until there's no more damage numbers. This terminal controls the chief engineer and the turrets, but I found that in some variations of the silo, you only get the engineer controls. Check the side rooms too. You can get quite a bit of destruction done before you even leave the first few rooms. The good thing about explosive weapons is that you'll destroy quite a few cores just by fighting the initial wave of robots. It's a bigger bang for your buck, as the saying goes.
Mainframe integrity at 15%.
If you're not wearing power armor, The Assaultrons are by far the worst enemies in the silo. Be careful around them. Even in power armor, you can take massive damage if you get hit with a head laser. The other types of robots aren't too bad. Not even the Centrobot you'll see later. If you do die, it will probably be to an Assaultron or their laser turrets. Yeah, remember what I was saying about the Assaultrons? I don't usually run into legendary enemies in silos, but this run seems to have quite a few. The irony is that you don't want legendary enemies. If you're usually running with a lot of gear, then the legendary drops can very easily send you overweight. I've already destroyed the necessary cores, but let me show you where the rest are. I've also seen people just lob nuke grenades in this area. It's not a bad way to hit the turrets. This room tends to be very disorienting with all the fighting and all that. But the exit is ahead and to the right of the entrance we used. Be careful about the Assaultron down in the tunnel. Many people tend to die to this one just because they get caught unawares, including me when I'm not in power armor. You get lulled into a false sense of security after the big fight in the mainframe room. It's not exactly the same mainframe, but you now have to fix a broken mainframe to open the gate to the launch room. It's a good idea to clear the initial set of robots and turrets. There's a Centrobot hidden to the right of the entrance, and it's a good idea to shoot it before it sees you. Now that it's a bit quieter, let's go back to the start of the section. The locations of the cores you need to pick up are random, but I'll show you where they tend to be found. Using a headlamp can help in spots where things are a bit dark. This room is worth going into if you have 3 lock-picking perks. There's at least 1 core and a security terminal.
Now constructing additional security units.
Area secure.
The cores can be pretty hard to find at first, but one option is to repair broken ones. It costs you a bit of circuitry and steel, but if you have plenty, then that's definitely an option.
Security teams to Sector Delta.
Yourself.
Make sure you use this terminal and open the door. If you open it, it's a shortcut to the starting area, and if you die, it lets you bypass the reactor and the first mainframe room. Now let's get back to the search. Go up to the top of the shelves.
There. Yourself. Law-abiding citizen. Nothing to fear.
you always find at least one core up here.
A level 4 security event is in progress. Assembling reinforcements.
Finding two cores in the same spot is very rare. I think this might be the only time I've seen this. This run is turning out to be a pretty odd one. And here's the security mainframe. It looks like we only have 10 cores so far, but you'll need 15 in total. You always find one core on top of it. That's to show us what the cores look like. Broken cores need to be taken off and replaced with working ones. You'll need the broken cores if you choose to repair them at the Tinker's workbench we looked at earlier. And by the way, damaged cores weigh a lot, so if you're suddenly finding yourself overweight, then check the miscellaneous tab in your inventory. That's a lot of weight off your back.
Repeat. Area unknown.
Security incident.
Unidentified intruder detected. Beginning.
Standing down. Sensor alert. Anomaly detected. Anomaly detected.
We are the lead! We are me!
We're back at the starting area. When you're starting to do silo runs, it's common to miss at least one or two cores. At that point, it's worth it to just repair them.
Level 4 security event is in progress.
But in this case, we didn't check this little hidden area. And that's 15 cores. Now you can use the mainframe and open the gate. But ironically looks like it bugged out. I used the glitch that I'll talk about in later sections to get past the gate. Finally, after all that, it's time to launch the nuke. Usually there's a bunch of turrets, but sometimes you get a version of the silo without any turrets. But if you need to, the room we just came out of has a terminal to disable them. The launch console is to the left and up the stairs from the entry room. Starting the launch creates the first of 5 robots.
Initiated.
After a while you'll get 2 more, and finally the last 2 for a total of 5.
To stations.
It's not a bad idea to go around the silo before starting the launch process and clearing the initial wave of robots and turrets. The rooms where the launch controllers are made are located around the central room. You need to use the terminals to remake them if they get destroyed. But if you see a damaged controller, you can use the friendly fire perk to heal them. It's a lot more convenient to fire the flamer a few times than it is to find the specific terminal and recreate them. Having said that, you still make progress with fewer controllers, so if you're close to the end, you can just wait it out. I usually find that it's a good idea to camp in the area to the left of the central room. A lot of the enemy robots come from that direction. But keep in mind that they can come from other rooms. It's best to listen for the sounds to tell which direction they're coming from. And be especially wary for assaultrons. One of them can take out multiple controllers before you notice. How many enemies you get depends on how many players are in the launch control room. This time things seem to be going a bit easier than normal, so that's a bit lucky. A bug can happen here that stops the progress bar. Typically it tends to happen at around 75%. And if it happens, then there's nothing to be done. You have to leave, let the silo reset, and try again from the start. Once the launch progress completes, you can access the launch controls.
Standing by for final authorization.
They're below where the first launch controller is located. Before you do anything, look up the code for your particular silo. Double check where you are and make sure you have the right code. It's also a good idea to do any perk and inventory management now. You want to be able to fast travel immediately. Then insert the card into the left slot and enter the code into the right keypad. If you get it wrong, you lose your nuclear keycard, so double check before you enter the last digit. Now you set the target. You can pick anywhere other than the forest region. Typically, people tend to launch at the Fisher Prime to start the Scorch Beast Queen event. You only have to include the site in the nuke radius to trigger the event. And people tend to leave out several of the locations to the right of the fissure because that includes the respawn location for the event, and people tend to fast travel to the bunker. At the very least, you should leave one fast travel point available so people can get to the event before it starts. Other locations include the abandoned mineshaft 2 to trigger the Nuka 2 boss battle, and the Monanga mine to start the boss battle with Earl. After you launch, you have a couple of minutes before it lands. Okay, that was pretty involved, and for lower level players, it can be pretty tough to learn how to do things. You definitely won't be doing perfect runs the first time you try a silo, but I still recommend doing it at least once so you can experience it like the designers intended. After a few times, you should start to make use of the shortcuts available. This is very reliable and very easy to pull off. If you do it right, it allows you to bypass everything except the initial card registration and the final launch. It's called the Photomode glitch. Once you've registered your card and got past the laser barrier, get to the unpickable door I showed you before. That's the one that leads to the storage area, where you find and repair the mainframe cores. Get as close as possible to the bottom corner of the door. You want your character to be touching it. Then go into photo mode. On PC, that's done by going into the map and pressing T. Move the camera as close as possible to the bottom corner of the door and cancel photo mode by pressing escape. If you did it right, your character is now inside the door and you can walk forward through to the other side. You'll still have to deal with the robots and the turrets. If your power armor is good enough, you can just tank the damage and get to the locked gate. Then do the photo mode glitch again to get to the other side. If you're not in power armor, then in my opinion the best approach is to use a shotgun and then force a perk to target the control modules on enemies. Then get back into hiding and let them fight each other. The turrets are usually good enough to destroy all the robots and eventually start shooting each other. That's the right time to get past the gates. Congratulations, you've just skipped most of the silo. Now it's time to launch the nuke. This one's a bit trickier, but if you can't pull it off, you can skip having to make the card at all. Before you try it, you should have the marsupial and bird bones mutations, plus a jump jet. Take a few mines with you. Drop one around here, so it's close enough to target in VATS, but not close enough that you'll hit it. Unequip your weapon. You need to be punching with your bare fists. Get on top of these boxes. Now comes the tricky part. You have to jump, activate VATS and punch. That can take you out of bounds for a moment. Then immediately deactivate VATS and use the jump jet to get fully out of bounds. You won't be coming back for the mine, so expect to lose it. Sometimes you might punch the mine, so you want to make sure you have spares in case that happens. The same goes if you die. You need to use the glitch again, but at least the mine should still be there. Once you're fully out of bounds, you need to run on top of the vertical walls. Jump and jetpack your way to the upper area. Then drop in once you're above the launch console. From here you just do the launch prep as normal. You can use whichever one you prefer. Either one will let you bypass major portions of the silo. If you ever see someone launching nukes in quick succession, then they're definitely using one of these glitches. Anyway, that's all the information you should need in order to pull off a successful nuke silo. So get out there and launch more nukes so I can get even more repair kits that I'm not going to ever use. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. See you soon.